Commissioners, I'm calling the meeting to order July 21st, 2022 at 10 a.m. I'd like to ask Commissioner Robin Blackwood to please read the notice of meeting statement.
The meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place for the July 21st, 2022 Commission meeting was distributed July 19th, 2022 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website, Americans with Disabilities. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I just want to welcome you all to the DSN meeting for July. Those of you who are joining us online, please bear with us if we have some technical glitches today. We ask you to just make sure if we happen to get out on you, check back and it should be posted on our website. We are recording this. However, our monitors are not working today, so we just ask you to bear with us today as we work through these issues. I want to welcome the commissioners. Glad to have you all back. Congratulations on your daughter's marriage, Mr. Kohler. And just want to tell you all how much we appreciate you being here. Let's look at our agenda for today. Is there any changes or additions that need to be made to the agenda? And if not, do I have a motion to approve? Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it and the agenda is approved. The invocation, today is Mr. Blackwood's turn. Would you mind giving us the invocation today?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the new season of growth and change. We are hopeful new doors of opportunity, collaboration, and renewed relationships will strengthen this agency to better serve people with disabilities. We choose to trust in you and your promises and ask for your wisdom, grace, and love to strengthen our community and bless all the providers serving those in their care. In Jesus' name.
All right. Next, we're going into the commission's minutes for the last two meetings. There are two sets of minutes included in your package. One is a special call meeting on June 30th, and the second is the commission meeting, which was held June 16th. If you don't mind, is there any changes or additions that need to be made to the minutes? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the minutes. All right, is that on both sets or just one? On both sets, minutes are approved. Second on that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as written. Commissioners update. We'll start, I think last time we started over here, this time we'll start over here. Commissioner Thomas, what kind of update have you got for us this month?
No, alive and well.
Well, I'm glad to have you.
And here.
Glad to
Praise
have
the Lord.
you. Commissioner Carr.
Well, as you know, I've been busy. I just last month meeting with my daughter finished a residency and got married the next day.
Wow.
I want to thank all the staff for my sympathy card, which we call a birthday card. What's life? The sympathy I need. I did attend the Richland Lexington board meeting last month, and they all treated me fairly. I did find out though that when we solicit new employees, we actually cherry pick their staff. So that is a problem. I don't know how we're going to address that. Hopefully somebody here can at least communicate with them or help them in some way, because I think we offer a position for conflict-free
Case management.
Thank you. And we were paying $44,000. Well, they can't pay that.
Right.
I think they lost a person because of that. They weren't.
Ours is a little different level. We needed someone
I didn't know. They didn't give me a hard time doing mentions. I don't want to mention.
That's good.
And that's really everything I know.
Great. We appreciate you going in and attending that meeting. And I know that's important. And I'm encouraging everyone to. I'm doing that next month in Oregon as well. Go ahead, Robin.
Okay. So July is Fragile Rights Awareness Month. And tomorrow, July 22nd, is actually a National Day of Recognition. And as I mentioned last month, the governor did sign a proclamation for Fragile X Awareness Day. There's going to be an event tomorrow at the State House at 10:30, just bringing awareness to Fragile X syndrome, which is what my son has. He was diagnosed about 11 years ago with it. It is a genetic disorder caused by changes in a gene called the Fragile X messenger, FMR1 is the actual gene, which makes a protein that's needed for brain development. People who have Fragile X do not make this protein. And Fragile X affects both males and females. However, females usually have a milder symptoms than males. And primarily, the symptoms of Fragile X syndrome are learning disability. That's the primary issue faced by most individuals with Fragile X, especially males.
Is that like Lorenzo's oil? Remember Lorenzo's oil? Is there any relationship on that genetic disorder?
I don't have to look into that. I've never heard that. So,
have you seen the movie? You have seen the movie.
No.
Oh, excuse me.
But I bet I will definitely.
I've only watched it 3 times. It's one of my favorite movies.
Well, it is hereditary, and you're a carrier of it if you pass it on to a child. And so carriers are much more prevalent, but for the actual full mutation syndrome, which is what my son has, 1 in 7,000 males have it, and about 1 in 11,000 females. Females are often less diagnosed because, again, they sometimes have no or mild symptoms, whereas the males have much more prominent symptoms of learning disability. Autism is usually a secondary diagnosis, ADHD, anxiety, and other things. I passed out some information that gives you just a little bit more information about it, but I know DDSN serves a lot of people, maybe not even diagnosed, because it has to be done genetically. It's genetic blood work, and Greenwood Genetics actually diagnosed my son Sam 11 years ago, and it was a really good experience going through that with them. They're highly regarded as Fragile X experts, Greenwood Genetics, throughout the state, and they do many trials and research around Fragile X. And so I was just there this week actually doing a study with them. So that is my update for this month, and just bringing awareness to Fragile X. And I've met many families throughout the state that have a child, a loved one with Fragile X. So there are many people in South Carolina that actually do have this disability, and utilize DDSN services to help support the family member. So he's the reason I'm sitting here today.
Yeah.
It's going to be detected bandage and teeth.
Yes.
And can it be treated free in utero?
No. So,
Thank you, Alan.
okay.
Mr. Malphus.
I have a very quick one because Robin was much more interesting than mine, but I will say that I just wanted to thank the Whitney Center for their efforts to host us this past month whenever we were there, and it was a wonderful experience that I had there, and I just wanted to thank them and everybody that had anything to do with that situation, and we look forward to doing that in October and another.
Mr. Miller, I know you've had a busy night.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I noticed Dr. DeCosta is here. We've worked together throughout the years in many different areas. Wanted to acknowledge her, doing a fantastic job. Also, I visited the Charles Lee Center, and Jerry Bernard rolled out the red carpet for me. I don't know what he's going to do for you guys. Not, but he rolled out the red carpet. And if you have not, you need to see that smart center. It's extra smart. It's something that the other centers throughout the state need to take a serious look at. They are well above the curve. So I would recommend to all that have not need to go up there and now he will not roll out the red carpet because I took the carpet with me. So don't look for any red carpet. Last but not least, my wife, who's the mayor of Maysville, South Carolina, grandniece of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. We witnessed the statue unveiling of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune in Statuary Hall, United States Congress. Wow. There were only 75 invitees. I don't know whether she was 74 and I was 75, but we were there, and it was, if you have not seen it, it's available on the internet. Dr. Bethune has done a lot for America and the world. We worked with 5 U.S. presidents. And so.
She was from Florida?
No, she's from Maysville, South Carolina.
Oh, I thought I had seen something where she had done a lot of work in Florida. Maybe I just misunderstood.
No, she is the founder of Bethune-Cookman University in Florida.
Oh, that was.
But she grew up in Maysville, South Carolina, and then went to Barber, Scotia in Concord, North Carolina. And then she wound up coming out of Palaca, Florida. A pastor told her about the railroad coming through Daytona Beach, and that's where she wound up. And then my wife, Jackie Robinson, they had their baseball game, had a professional pitcher there, the one that was hurt. They asked my wife to come down to Daytona and throw out the first ball. And she really hit the catcher. And I'm very proud of her. So I'll give back the balance of my time.
It sounds like a wonderful event. I can't wait to get to the statue. I've heard it's absolutely beautiful. All right, Commissioner.
So I know I've talked a lot about my daughter, and so today she is here. She's gonna share a few things, and I brought my family. So she can, and that's why I'm here. So.
Wonderful. Welcome, McKenna and family. We're glad to have you guys with us today and look forward to hearing from you here. Like Commissioner Malthus, I want to thank the Whitten Center. I also want to thank Spartanburg Community College for hosting us last month. I feel like it's important for this commission to get out in our communities and hear from our constituents and people that we serve and to make it easy access for them. We hope to continue to do that at least once a quarter. Next quarter, the Communications Committee did meet actually this last time, and we decided that we are going to try to go towards the Charleston area, and we'll be touring the Postal Center while we're down that way. And if you have another facility you want us to look at, please contact me, send me an email. If you have a program you'd like for us to look at while we're down there, we'd be more than happy to try to make time for that. We are going to do something a little bit different. The Communications Committee decided that we want to be allow a little more time for public input. And so we will, instead of doing public input during our meeting, after the meeting, we will have a listening session like we've done in the past in communities so that family members can come and just talk with us and have that time just to kind of give some feedback. I am going to ask the Communications Committee to adopt some rules for that listening session as to how we interact time-wise and whether we can ask questions of the folks, that kind of thing. So if you have some input on that, if you will let Barry or Robin know so the Communications Committee can address that and get those in place by the time we do our next meeting.
You know, and it's a wonderful opportunity to really hear what's going on out in the world a little bit. The lady who spoke concerning her child and who was not able to get away, you know, in terms of time and all that, I think can help get us oriented towards some of the specific needs. So I applaud the, you know, going out. I don't think she could have come had it been here, but she can get away briefly given the situation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely, and I think it helps bring our staff back into sync as to why we're actually serving. It brings us as commissioners back into that realm, and I think that's important. I think it's important for us to be able to listen to those we serve and to make it an easy access for them. So I appreciate you commissioners traveling, because some of you had to travel a long distance to get there. And I do appreciate it. And Commissioner Miller and I both had to travel pretty good ways, but I think it was well worth it. And our trip to also to visit Charles Lee the day before was definitely worth the visit and worth the time. They've got some great programs going on there. As I said in our last meeting, those programs are extremely valuable. And I think we're going to, we as a commission have to look in the direction of improving our technology within our agency. I know Harley's working on a bunch of initiatives for that. And I look forward to seeing what our staff can do to help bring us into this next century and our care for those we serve. Is there any other information? Oh, I do need to let you two know, Witten Center did, while we were there, it was a wonderful tour. They did give us a book of history about Witten Center, and they gave me yours, and I was in a hurry this morning, running out the door, and I left it sitting right on my table, but I promise you I will get it to you so that you'll have that. I apologize for not bringing it with me this morning. Should have given it to staff, but I'll try to bring it up here and have it. But I walked out. And
well, it's not like you don't have a lot to do.
I just got a little
we
bit.
know your plate is full.
Today was a little fuller than normal. That's so true of that. Okay, so we've got that. There is no public input today, so we're going to move straight into our programs. We are very excited to have Dr. DaCosta with us. DaCosta, is that correct? Yes. We have Dr. DaCosta with us this morning, the South Commission for Minority Affairs, and we're excited to hear from you this morning. Why don't you join us?
Wonderful. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
It is such a pleasure being here with you this morning. I was excited when my chief of staff asked me to, he asked if I would like to come and do a presentation. I said, absolutely. I don't need to send staff. I want to go. And so I came out this morning. I brought with me Ms. Jacelyn. She is my intern from USC. And to just give you a little bit of background on me, I came to the commission back in 2018. I spent over 20 years in Washington, D.C., working for members of Congress, including Arthur Ravenel as chief of staff to Congressman Henry Brown, and I retired after working for Senator Tim Scott. So I have a long political history, federal policy history, and about 40 years in public service. And I came here to the commission because I wanted to retire out, continuing to help people. And I thought this was a good fit for me to be a part of this commission. And I was going through your commissioners list and saw Mr. Ed Miller. We have that relationship. His wife and I have done some things to help the town of Maysville. And one thing that really stuck out for me is Mr. Malbrough. He's a Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah.
This is a die-hard Dallas Cowgirl right here.
Really? Well, that's
I come from a Dallas family. So when I saw Dallas, I said, oh, we've got some great people around the table. I got excited. I said, okay, I'm definitely going to enjoy being a part of you today. Now, the commission, for those of you who are not familiar with the commission, started back in 1993. It was a commission that was started to study the cause and effects of socioeconomic deprivation in African-American communities. And maybe I need to follow the slide so you can follow me, I guess. Mm-hmm. We have a 10-member board, and the first seven represent the 7th congressional district. We have 2 at large, and then the governor's designee. Our mission is to be a catalyst that identifies and examines emerging issues and trends by providing constructive solutions and approaches to support the policy and socioeconomic development of ethnic minority communities through community engagement and awareness, state recognition of Native Americans, collecting, diagnosing, and analyzing collaborative data, acting as liaison to bridge the gap between communities, government, agencies, and other organizations, and influencing public policy. Our vision is that all ethnic minority citizens of the state of South Carolina will be treated equitably and achieve economic prosperity through cultural, social awareness, collaboration, policy change, and research. Now, we're in the process, because when I came here, the commission did not address disabilities. So we have just incorporated disabilities into what we do, our advocacy work. And I'm going to skip a lot of the PowerPoint. I'm just going to go through because it's going to take a minute, but a copy of the PowerPoint will be presented to all of you. I wanted to really get into what we do.
Yeah, we have it in our book.
Okay,
just so
very
you know.
good. So I don't need to go into all the details. We were started, when we were started back in 1993, it was to study African-American, the disparities in African-American communities. In 2000, 10 years later, Governor Mark Sanford added Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Hispanic Latino communities. Those were the 4 primary program areas that we advocate for and provide research and community services to make sure that folks are getting the information that they really need in those communities. We also have a small minority business division that helps or reaches out to those struggling small businesses to make sure that they have access to information. Our primary focus is on research and providing data to the governor's office, to the General Assembly, to community organizations, to state agencies. We partner with over 60 state agencies, other public entities, and private entities at the commission, because our job is to make sure that all information get to the right people at the right time. During COVID, we partnered with Able South Carolina. We partnered with Voc Rehab. Why? Because that's a population of people that oftentimes get overlooked when it comes to sharing information. And COVID was critical because of the impact on those who had pre-existing issues. So therefore, we are still actively involved with ABLE. We are a long-term partner with them. We just renewed our MOU. We just renewed our MOU with Voc Rehab because we want to make sure that when you're talking about minorities, I know what the statute says, but I know what we also have to include. And that's what I try to do. I try to make sure that the commission is an advocate for those whose voices are not oftentimes heard loud enough. We want to make sure that there's a loud voice for your communities as well as any other community that may be overlooked over time. At the commission, we spend a lot of time in communities. And I was happy when Able South Carolina reached out to us. One of the things that we do is we disseminate information. We help with the data collection, analyzing the data, and we put the data out so that people can understand what's going on, the impact of our communities to the state of South Carolina and how South Carolina can better serve our communities. And that's how we spend a lot of our time at the commission. And we also have on staff, and I try to make sure that my staff mirrors the people we serve. On staff, we have someone trained in sign languages. We have developed a resource guide with a list of all the services provided for those with disabilities. A copy of it was sent here, but we can't print it, so you all will get a copy of that. When you look at that resource guide, if you see something that we need to add, please send us an email. We want to make sure that all of our information is updated at all times so that we can accurately share it across the state for anyone who's interested in hearing more about it. CMA is successful because we collaborate. We collaborate a lot with just about every agency in the state of South Carolina because we have to show that connection wherever we go. When I came here, there was more of agencies doing their own thing and nobody wanting to share data. And it resulted in a lot of duplication of services. And the only way you can avoid or limit duplication of services is to share what you're doing. I am asking you to share whatever you want CMA to help you disseminate publicly. If there's something you want us to help you advocate for, call us and we will get on it. If you want us to go before the General Assembly, we do that too, because we are in this together. And the only way we're going to make South Carolina a great place to live is to make sure that we operate and function together, collectively, sharing what we do, speaking up for each other, and making sure that no one gets left out. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Do we have an MOU with you all?
I don't think so. We need one.
We do.
We need one.
And I encourage our staff to take note of that, and let's try to set something up so that we can develop that and make sure that we have that going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all in helping each other.
I agree. I 100% agree that all of our agencies in South Carolina need to work in collaboration with each other and do what we can to help each other and provide information and data and that kind of thing. So I definitely will encourage our staff to take that up as a project.
We look forward to it.
I'm sure it won't happen immediately, but within.
Absolutely, and they can contact me or contact my staff. I think
Rob,
she has our email.
Okay.
Yes, and we can have staff do a Zoom with your staff and come up with what we want that MOU to look like.
That sounds
Because
great.
I think that it is critical to show unity in all that we do.
Did you, just real quick, I'm gonna ask your intern, were you the one that created, there was a video of your experiences on the committee, and I think I came to the Minority Affairs Committee and got to see a video of your experiences. Was that, did you do that? It was one of your interns, I think.
When was this?
It'd have been back in the spring, early spring. I came and they did a presentation.
Oh, that would have probably been Alex.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was
Probably
very
Alex.
good.
All of my young people
Yes.
are charged with handling technology.
They did a good job.
When it comes to creating podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, I look to them and say, is this good for us? And we do. It works well. If you go to my agency, I think you'll see almost every generation represented there because it's needed. We have to have the voices of everybody, young, older. I'm the oldest one there, and I'm a baby boomer. So from baby boomers down, we are represented by every generation that's of working age. And it works well for us. You see the generations sharing ideas, creativity, which are the things that make CMA a great agency.
I call that wisdom. I think, you know, when you put everybody together and get that collaborative.
Absolutely.
As much as Richard would rather us not steal their employees, I'd love to have one of your interns, and I saw the work they did. It was very good.
Absolutely. Anytime. And we are doing monthly podcasts with our partners. We are identifying partners who would like to share. So we will add you to the list.
Right.
And my intern who's doing the podcast right now, he's going to leave for China in August, but we'll have others trained to carry on because we want people to hear what's going on around the state. So we will be sure to reach out to your staff to develop a podcast under CMA, and we can play that around the state.
That's wonderful.
It works well.
That'd be great. Robin?
Yeah, Dr. Costa, I was just gonna ask you if you said you did a lot of research. Have you done any research regarding people with disabilities in public education and people with disabilities in the prison system? Have you done anything minorities primarily?
We have not. We are working right now with the Department of Corrections. We have an MOU with them. We are actually looking at different areas to research with the Department of Corrections. That disability, folks with disabilities in prison will be a part of that. As far as education, we have not done our education research yet, but it is coming. So if there's something in particular you want us to focus on, send us an email and I will get it to Dr. Fenton, who handles our research team, and they will start gathering data and analyzing data to paint a picture of what that looks like, because that's critical.
Yeah, many minorities that have part of public school system and have a disability of some sort, minorities are often not receiving the education that they
Absolutely.
deserve. And so there's certainly challenges with that. Sure that that's just a spotlight to put on that, and you know the magnitude of what that looks like from a research perspective would be good to have. I mean, there's probably some stuff out there through maybe some education focused groups that are evaluating that, so they could have some research that you could kind of. But in terms of South Carolina,
Absolutely.
I don't know that.
Right. And we're probably going to that. And that's where our research, we will look at national statistics and things of that nature, but we bring it home. We focus a lot, what does South Carolina do? Okay. And so that would be definitely be something that we will highlight and start working on this fiscal year.
I noticed that you do some work with Disability Rights of South Carolina.
Yes.
And they do a lot in that area.
Yes.
So there'll be another resource of you know, collaboration on that specific topic regarding inequities for minorities.
Absolutely.
Receiving an education if they have a disability of some sort. And
I'd like the same thing with like rehab. I think, you know, we see a lot of our kids that come out of high school and have a disability and want to go to work, but they can't seem to find the services, or they aren't getting the services, you know, especially if they're disabled, they're not getting the services to go to rehab that they really need. So I would like for us to look at that. I think that's important too, to see, you know, what that transition looks like.
Absolutely.
For those folks.
And we do partner with both rehab, because those are some of the issues that we've already been asked about.
Yeah.
So we're definitely looking into that, because we want to make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to receive the same services.
Yeah.
And agencies that have fallen below the mark and dragging their feet, we tend to partner with them to help them move the needle by bringing those discrepancies to the surface and giving them something to focus on, letting them know, okay, we're missing folks in the rural areas, rural schools, because rural schools don't have the resources, and children with disabilities in a lot of the rural schools are really like an outcast. And a lot of the parents do not know where to go to get assistance from them. So therefore, these children are missing out on education because the resources not there. It's not that they cannot learn, but you have to have a resource there to help them to learn, or to be in an environment where they're comfortable learning.
Any other questions?
I'm concerned about all the vacancies you have in the commission.
I know.
What happened?
When I came here, I've never had a full commission. When I came here in 2018, I may have had 7. And this year was the year that most of them retired out or their term ended. And we have this long list of people wanting to be commissioners, but they didn't get all of their documents in time. So we have someone already for those spots, but you know, they open up once a year to go before judiciary and before the Senate, and most of those folks miss the mark. So therefore, we have to hold them until January.
And have a quorum. How do you do business?
Well, we have 5 sitting commissioners.
Some are flavors, I would imagine.
Yeah, one of them is Calvin Whitfield. He can represent 20 people.
We have 5 city commissioners, and that's plenty for a quorum for our meetings. But I've called the governor's office and I've said, you know what? I've been here since 2018. I've never had all 10 commissioners.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we put in our paperwork and got further down the line, and we still didn't approve. So
The process is just,
it's not just paperwork.
It's-
You can get it in and still be
It takes a while to get.
waiting
things
to
in.
be, yeah,
It takes a long time. I hope that that process can be changed
yeah.
so that folks can get processed a whole lot faster, so we can have our full boards.
I agree. Any other questions? Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Thank you for our bag with our
Absolutely.
information and our PowerPoint. I know the commissioners found that very helpful.
Very good. I look forward to the MOU.
I would love to be a part of it.
All right, thank you.
And when Dallas opens their season, I'll think of you.
We had a pretty good season last year.
Yes.
We're going all the way this year.
Very good.
Barry's gonna be the quarterback next year.
Yeah.
Sure. Tell us what this
Is
is.
this a fan? Yes.
Yes.
That is so brilliant. I love it because it's so hot these days.
Okay, I'm excited about our next group. I have been encouraging them to come for a while. And I had the pleasure of meeting McKenna at Clemson with my daughter. We're going to talk about a little bit about adaptive sports in South Carolina. I think it's something our agency really needs to look hard into because we have a lot of folks in the state who need to be active. But they're sitting there thinking, I can't, but we need the person to think I can. And so I'm going to turn it over to McKenna. McKenna Woodhead is Commissioner Woodhead's daughter, and to Jasmine Townsend. And so I'm going to let them address us. Welcome, McKenna. Welcome, Jasmine.
Hi, my name is McKenna Woodhead. I'm 18 years old. I'm going into my sophomore year at Clemson University. I was injured in 2018 from a jet ski accident. I have a C7 spinal cord injury, which paralyzes me from the chest down. So I have limited function in my hands too. As soon as I started rehab, I was introduced to adaptive sports. And that sparked like a lifelong passion of mine, and I'm super excited to learn more about it. I started adaptive sports in Charlotte, North Carolina, because that's where my rehab was, and that's where I still go. So it's still like an hour away from my rugby practices and my water skiing type of things, because it's the closest thing I have to me. But yeah, since then I've tried so many different sports, and it's great to be active and like try all the different equipment and everything, and try all the different sports, because there's so many available to me, and a lot of people like with disabilities don't exactly know that. So right now I'm on the Clemson wheelchair tennis team. I started last year in summer playing tennis. I've never played it before, and so it was definitely a learning experience. I'm still learning how to do it exactly. I had to get a custom chair, which all adaptive equipment is very expensive, so that's one thing to factor into adaptive sports. Yeah, playing tennis has opened up so many opportunities, and I've gotten to meet so many different people, and it's been a really cool chapter in my life. That I'm continuing, obviously. And yeah, okay. Now I'll turn it over to.
So McKenna, you're going to be a recreational therapist.
Yes,
right?
that's my major.
That's
Yes.
your major. So she'll be actually working with those, teaching them to use all this adaptive equipment.
Yes, I'm excited.
Oh, that's your primary, that's going to be your primary duty.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that'll be in Clemson.
Very interesting.
Clemson offers that as a major. So we're excited about
Yes, me too.
that.
Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Jasmine.
Okay, Dr. Jasmine, how are you?
Thank you for having us here. I'm excited to speak after McKenna. I'd rather much just listen to her talk about all of her cool experiences. But my name is Dr. Jasmine Townsend. I'm one of the recreational therapy faculty members at Clemson University, but I am also the director of the Clemson Adaptive Sports and Recreation Program. We started this a few years ago in 2018, actually, out of a need to be able to provide services to the campus community. So prior to starting our program, there were no services, recreation, just general student recreation or varsity athletic programs on campus for students with disabilities to participate in anything, which is really unfortunate. We should have equity in those opportunities. And so my husband, Jeff Townsend, also teaches in our department, the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management Department. And he is a wheelchair user himself as well. graduate of the University of Illinois, and he was a scholarship athlete there for wheelchair basketball, and has always wanted to spread his experience to wherever we landed. And Clemson happened to be the place that we landed, and we love it here. So I'm gonna say a beep, like projectors. So in 2018, we started the Adaptive Sports and Recreation Program. You can see here, this is our mission statement here, that the two main points of what we're trying to achieve are to provide programming for the Clemson University campus, but then also for the broader community. Because not only is it absent on campus, it's also absent in the community. I'm really preaching to the choir here, so, which is nice, because mostly I'm not. And so I have to do a lot of back history and explaining. So you know the absence of services across the state, and really that's an absence across the nation. There are pockets of adaptive sport in the community. There's a big pocket in Atlanta, a big pocket in Charlotte, as McKenna's been able to tap into, but across the state of South Carolina, far fewer opportunities. And one of the kind of spark moments that really got us moving on this is we moved here in 2014. In 2015, one of the recreational therapists from Charisma Hospital at the Roger C. Peace Rehab Hospital in Greenville reached out to us and said, we have a young man here who's traveling 2.5 hours to Charlotte to play wheelchair basketball for the Charlotte teams. Can you help us? Well, good thing my husband has 25 years of wheelchair basketball experience under his belt, and he helped start the only junior wheelchair basketball program in the state, the Rolling Tigers, and it's sponsored by Charisma Health. And that really got it going. And just the fact that, similar to McKenna's experience, his parents are driving him 2.5 hours one way every week to play a recreational sport, which any of our general population can just go to their local Parks and Rec facility and sign up for anything, right? How many of you have kids who play sports? They just have to run down to your community Parks and Rec and sign up for it, or the YMCA, right? Those services don't exist as readily for individuals with disabilities. So we want to change that. It was great to start that team, the Rolling Tigers, but that wasn't enough. We wanted to have a bigger reach. So we tried to kind of maximize the resources available at the university to start there. And our goal is to spread that programming across the whole state, and hopefully it will go, farther than that. Our second kind of mission point effort in our mission is to conduct applied research, to understand why there are all of the disparities that exist. Hopefully that information will be able to be used by frontline service providers so that they can make good decisions in their programming and how they organize things, but also by policy officials like yourselves who can help potentially change that on a bigger level. You have reach that I do not have, but I can give you the information. And you can use that to be able to make decisions that impact people far more widely than I can. So how are we doing this? Right now, it is through strategic collaborations at the university. I keep telling people that it's the right time at the right people at Clemson. Like the stars and planets are aligning. I keep asking for things and I keep getting yeses. And so I'm just going to keep asking.
Wheelchair rugby, I got to see that.
Yeah. You've never seen it? I first witnessed it at Shepherd with my daughter. It is the most intense athletic thing. I've watched all kind of athletics, but rugby, they'll turn those chairs over and flip them right back. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's awesome. It's the first wheelchair sport I started.
Can we have a demo here?
The Carolina Crash team in Charlotte.
It's called Crash Team?
Yeah.
Carolina Crash.
It's pretty intense.
They call it very fun. So we were able to start that with the campus recreation program through intramurals. We started with inclusive. We wanted anybody on campus to be able to come and play. Mostly that's because there are not a lot of students at Clemson with physical disabilities. So there aren't enough students for McKenna to put together a team of students with disabilities to kind of field her own team. And so, but why limit her from playing? Get whoever wants to play in a chair. And so we went to the undergraduate student body and requested funds to buy sport wheelchairs to support that playing, right? So a lot of students, as was previously mentioned, don't have access to resources to be able to play these things. And as McKenna mentioned, the equipment is very expensive. It's about $3,000 for a sports wheelchair. And so I don't know if very many people have that extra cash lying around to play. So, and certainly, you know, the university has resources. So the undergrad student body gave us $45,000, and we were able to buy 12 sport wheelchairs that the university now owns that help facilitate this inclusive recreation opportunity. So all McKenna has to do is say, hey, come be on my team. And then somebody else can put a team together and they're playing wheelchair basketball or wheelchair rugby in intramurals, just like anybody else playing intramurals at the university. Right? We're really trying to reduce the inequities and increase the access to opportunity. So after starting with campus recreation, my husband and I, we aim high. We like to go for the gold from the get-go. We went straight to the athletic department and said there needs to be a varsity program here. So I don't know if you're into college sports, but just a few numbers here. The NCAA system, which manages collegiate sports in the United States, has about 1,100 member institutions, universities, who are NCAA members across 3 divisions, D1, 2, and 3. And they serve about 500,000 student athletes a year across 24 different sports. Men's and women's sports, football, basketball, swimming, all of the things that we see all the time, right? In comparison, there are about 18 universities in the United States that have adaptive varsity programs. They serve about 350 students a year, and there are only 3 sports available: wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, and adaptive track and field. The inequity is just, it's huge, right? So in the state of South Carolina, there are no universities prior to us building our program that provide an adaptive varsity athletics opportunity. When we brought that to the athletic department, it fell on very willing ears, you know, to listen to that, and they said, yes, we will support you. So we have started with our varsity wheelchair tennis team that McKenna is a member of. We have 2 other athletes on that team. It's governed by the national governing body for collegiate wheelchair tennis is the USTA. And so we have strategic partners with the USTA to be able to help run this program at the university. And of course, the athletic department has given us access to the same athletics facilities that the able-bodied athletes play in. We use the same Nike contract, the same travel agency, with the same-ish promotional opportunities we're building still on our collaboration with them. But these are huge, important collaborations. There are other universities who have adaptive athletics programs that do not have that working relationship with their athletic department. They're building it from the ground up, grassroots, which is in many cases the way to go. And they've been successful at it. I hate to say that Alabama is like the gold standard. Dang it. But yeah, Alabama really has set the standard high here in the Southeast region. The University of Illinois was the first university to have a varsity program. They started way back in 1946. And so Alabama set it high, but they have also shared all of their information with us to help us build our program because they want more. There should not be only about 18 universities, right? Sure. Any other student graduating from high school who wants to go to college can choose anywhere to go. Right, but you're really very limited if you want to go somewhere and continue on a sport, an adaptive sport that you may have picked up as a youth. Now, on that note, that's another issue that is kind of prevalent in this industry is that there are not a lot of youth development opportunities in the adaptive sports world. So McKenna's new to her injury. My husband was born with his disability. He didn't start playing sports until he was about 17. He didn't really know that those opportunities existed. And it wasn't until he was in an assembly in high school as a freshman that the local adult wheelchair basketball team came and did a little demo in his assembly. And he was one of the only kids at his school with a disability. And like all of his teachers came up to him afterwards and said, "You're going to do this, right? You're going to do this." And he said, "But I don't have a sport wheelchair and I don't know any of that." There was no youth program. So he just spent a couple of years saving money to buy that $3,000 sport wheelchair and then started playing with the adult team because there was no opportunity. That's the same here. There's not a lot of opportunity for kids to play in this state. And what's there is real sporadic and very limited. So we're trying to spread that across the state, spread awareness, share information. I would love to spread resources, but I think at this point, my resource is information. But hope to be able to build the resources. Okay, here's a picture. I have a whole lot of pictures on these slides, and in PDF, the animations don't work. So sorry about that. You'll just get to see one picture at a time. But this is our varsity wheelchair tennis team. Marsden Miller is our athlete on the left there. He was our very first athlete. We got real lucky. He happened to be already a student on campus when we started our team, and also real lucky that he's a natural athlete. So we put a racket in his hand, and like McKenna, he picked up tennis like on day one and just got out there. McKenna was our second student athlete, and that is my husband in the middle, reviving his college athlete career, chosen retirement. But the USTA allows affiliate players to play on the team because they know that there are so few athletes out there to be able to play that they don't want to say, well, you can't have a team then, right? So Marsden has since graduated. McKenna is our only student athlete currently on the team, and Marsden and Jeff, my husband, are the affiliate players. We are hoping to build this team. We are able to offer scholarships to out-of-state students. The university has granted us 2 scholarships a year to bring students in. We're hoping to expand those scholarship opportunities to in-state students. We need a youth pipeline, a development pipeline, so that like McKenna and Marsden, they're not picking up a tennis racket the first day on campus. They need to come already ready. Just a few pictures here of our intramurals team. Our students love it. It fills up so fast. We had to do the pandemic pause and nothing happened over the last 2 years, but we're getting back to it this year. And those are our sport wheelchairs there, nicely. I don't know if you can see it. We got Clemson stickers all over it, so it's very visible. And working with Campus Rec has been in some ways a challenge because they're like, what are those chairs? Yours. I promise you nothing more than what is already happening. But it's been a good relationship to bring that in. And it's awesome because as these guys are out on the court playing, students are walking by and saying, what is that? And then they come and ask questions, and then they share and they say, hey, let's sign up the next season that opens. We have students signing up quickly. I also teach an adaptive sports class at Clemson in the same building in the Student Recreation Center. And I have people all the time coming up afterwards and saying, what is this class? I want to take it. And so, I'm preparing future recreation therapists, and hopefully we will convince some other people to come on over to our major and learn more about this so that you can go out and be the service providers. Part of the reason why there isn't that youth development pathway is that there aren't enough people in the state who know how to do this. Not enough service providers working in community parks and rec centers to be able to help provide these programs. Okay, so those strategic collaborations with the university, with athletic department and campus recreation, we are using to expand beyond just the campus and into the community. Right now, we offer 3 just annual events for people to participate in. We hope to be able to offer more daily programming, but definitely it's beyond my capacity at this point in terms of manpower and other resources. So the 3 events we offer now are the Clemson Classic, which is a wheelchair basketball tournament, a youth wheelchair basketball tournament. We have 8 to 10 teams come in from the whole southern region, from Alabama all the way up to Virginia. They come down and compete over one weekend. Again, think back to what kind of the typical sports and recreation opportunities are for kids who sign up, in your community parks and rec. How often are they playing in, every weekend, right? They've got some game or something happening every weekend. These kids only get 4 tournament weekends a year. That's all. And so we're trying to add to it and just, it's not filling the entire gap there, but we're trying to add and provide more opportunity. So the Clemson Classic runs every October in Clemson, and it's great. The Palmetto Games is a multi-sport, adaptive sport competition. So we offer air rifle, archery, swimming, track and field, and wheelchair tennis, and we hope to add para-triathlon in there. Since we are situated on the lake, we might as well use it. But this is also a youth and adult competition, so anybody with any physical impairment, intellectual disability can come and participate in this. It's all adaptive, and we're able to facilitate, that. And the Palmetto Games that's a new name for it. It's been in the state for 27 years, formerly under the name of Southeast Regional Wheelchair Sports Championships. And the people who ran that are out in Myrtle Beach, a group of rec therapists who ran it out there for 25 years, and then they handed it to us, and we've been running it for the last 2 years. And it serves the state, it serves the Southeast region. Paralympians have qualified for Paralympics there. So you don't have to be aiming for the Paralympics, but you can if you want to, and this is a pathway for that. And then our final kind of annual event that we run is the Wheelchair Tennis Championships, which our first one is happening today. It starts tonight at 6 p.m. It runs all weekend until Sunday. And this is an open wheelchair tennis tournament that anybody around the region or across the nation can apply or can come and compete. It's youth and adults, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I have a lot of pictures. I'm going to let you just click through, but because my animations aren't working in the PDF, you're not going to be able to see all of it. But just a few pictures here of our youth on the Rolling Tigers. You know, this isn't just for them to come and compete, it's for their families. Their siblings come and they see what their siblings are able to do and be a part of it, and they cheer and they do all the normal things that they get to experience when they go do their sports, right? But that their sibling who uses a wheelchair or whatever is sitting on the sidelines not being involved in. So these really are, you know, the ripple effect of participation here is really big. Next. Again, I wish my pictures were showing up. Maybe I'll send out the PowerPoint so you can spread out all those pictures. You know, a lot of the participants who come to the Palmetto Games are first-time athletes. They've not had the opportunity to try any of these things because it's not available in their local community. And so first time picking up a bow and arrow, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but that's okay. They need the opportunity to try things. And this event, the Palmetto Games, provides both that beginner opportunity all the way up to that elite level if you want to continue to pursue that. Next, please. And then our wheelchair tennis tournament. We are so lucky to have this relationship with the athletic department, not just for our varsity side, but they're letting us run an open tournament there. It's supporting our team, but this isn't just a collegiate tournament. This is open to the community. And so we're able to use a world-class facility. The new tennis center at Clemson is the only wheelchair accessible tennis center in the nation, collegiate wheelchair tennis center in the nation that's accessible. And, you know, it was a kind of happy coincidence that the director of tennis operations also at Clemson, who helped design that building, also happened to be the former national coach for the U.S. wheelchair tennis team. And so when he was involved in helping to design this building, he said, let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Not knowing that a few years later, we were going to knock on his door and ask for access. And he just said, yes. So opportunity, we're trying to provide opportunity. There has been some little things existing in the state, and we're just trying to build that and spread it across the state. So I think I'm gonna stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I can talk about it all day, but I know I only have a limited amount of time, so.
Commissioners, questions?
So I was just going to say that I think Clemson has the only wheelchair accessible golf course as well.
We do, the Walker Golf Course.
In the whole state, maybe even Southeast, I don't know how. So that's amazing. So
I'm hoping to get a golf tournament and an adaptive golf
well, there
tournament.
is upstate adaptive golf. Have you?
Yes, and I work with them, yeah, and we also work with
Good.
Triumph on the Greens is the golf tournament that's run by Roger C. Peace Rehab Hospital, which they don't run on our course, which I don't know why, but I think it's because they don't have access, so I'm trying to help bridge.
Good.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I hope that the DDSM boards that operate in the upstate, primarily the ones closest to Clemson, Oconee, Seneca, that those areas around Anderson are listening today and learning about the Palmetto Games, because we serve many adults with disabilities that would possibly be able to participate in some of these adaptive opportunities. So hopefully they'll be reaching out to you to get more information to see if they could, you know,
I'd be happy to talk to anybody about it.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of camps that Clemson runs, the outdoor lab. Do you collaborate with them on any of the programming that they do for their campers that have disabilities?
Well, so that lab is housed in my department, and so by nature of that, I collaborate with them.
Okay.
The adaptive sports program is working on building a collaboration with them. We want to run sports camps, just like any typical sports camps that are at a university exist. And so we want to partner with them to have that kind of be our housing location. But yes, we're working on that, building the adaptive sports, some things that look after.
Other questions? I have a question. How can we help you? What can we do to encourage this and encourage participation in events like your tennis tournament and your Palmetto Games, that kind of thing. What can we do as a commission to help encourage that across the state?
I don't know how much reach you had into community parks and recreation programs, but if they can build adaptive sports and recreation into what they offer, that will provide the youth pathway for youth to go anywhere, right? So for the Palmetto Games, we don't want people showing up to the Palmetto Games to compete, having never touched any of that equipment, never participated in any of those activities. They can, because we provide that beginner opportunity, but wouldn't it be better if they already knew, that they're already in shape and fit because they've been working out all year knowing that the Palmetto Games was coming, but that they're able to do all of that activity at their local parks and recreation organization, wherever they are in the state? That would be great. I don't have that reach into the community parks and rec organizations. For as much as we're in the parks and rec department, at Clemson, we don't quite have those types of relationships. And so I do a lot of cold calling, which that's what grassroots effort is. And that's really what we're doing here is using, so I do call on
systems that provide, like, are there any like school districts or whatever that provide these kind of services for their?
That's a wonderful question. The answer is mostly no. Now, there's a lot of legislation, federal legislation that mandates access to sports and recreation in the school system. Section 504 of the Rehab Act. I'm listing them all off, but I'm not lecturing today. We're having a conversation. That's for
I think it's important that they know that.
Yeah.
That's part of the learning process, is that our education, needs to understand they are responsible for making sure that those opportunities exist for those.
Yes.
In which.
And I understand, I think, the thinking of why it doesn't happen all the time, because oftentimes it's maybe one student in the whole school who has a physical disability. That was my husband's experience. Like, he was one of only a few. And so I think sometimes from a resource standpoint, people are looking at it like, do we build this for only one or two students? The answer is yes. From like a basic human rights and humanity, yes. Right, but legally, yes. You build it for one person. And I understand that a lot of people don't know how to, right? So there's a whole industry. Adaptive PE is a major, not Clemson, but it's a major that can teach somebody how to do these things, so that if there is a student with a disability going through the school system, that when they get to PE class, they're not the scorekeeper on the sidelines, right? They're an active participant in class because there's a teacher there who knows how to do that. And if they want to take it to the next level and it's beyond just in PE class, they want to be on their high school cross-country team or track team or swim team, there is an avenue for that as well. So they just have to build it at all of these schools. So it's not only on the community parks and rec side responsibility to make this happen, it's also on the school system side, K-12, but also at the higher ed. So we're trying to provide a target at Clemson, aim for coming to Clemson, but there are a lot of steps along the way that need to be built to be able to provide that path to Clemson. Happy to share the information with anybody.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, McKenna, for being here. You're doing great at Clemson. We're really proud of you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions? All right. We're going to move on our agenda. Thank y'all again. We appreciate our programs today. We are now going to move into committee business, commission committee business, committee appointments. We've been working this month trying to get all this set up. And so this is what our committees look like as of right now. The chairman of finance will be Commissioner Robin Blackwood. Serving on that committee with her will be Commissioner Eddie Miller and Michelle Woodhead. Policy, commission chairman, that committee chairman will be Gary Malfrist. David Thomas and Michelle Woodhead will serve on policy. Legislative affairs is going to grow a little bit this time. We're going to have former Senator David Thomas is going to serve as our chairman. Serving with him will be Commissioner Eddie Miller, Barry Malfrist, and Gary Cohart. The Communications Committee, we have not decided on a chair for that yet, but serving on that committee will continue to be Commissioner Eddie Miller, Robin Blackwood, and Barry Malfrist, and I'm going to let that committee decide who wants to serve as chair when they meet.
Are they gonna communicate that to the rest of them?
Yes, I'm gonna let Barry Malphurs be the contact, since he was the former chairman of that. And he will let you all know, and y'all can decide when they, who they want to serve as their chairman. Okay?
We'll fight it out at the next meeting and
Y'all
we'll
flip
figure
the
it out.
coin, flip the coin, figure it out. All right, communication subcommittee, Barry Malphurs, would you mind sharing that with us?
The communications, subcommittee met and we, made, several recommendations, primarily regarding the logo for, the new logo for DDSN. So that we no longer have a disabled tree, but we have something else, another kind of tree, be a part of our, logo, or at least what I perceive as a disabled tree currently. And we chose, the committee chose section, number B on your outline here for, number, I guess it'd be number tab 5, I'm guessing.
Yes, tab 5.
And we also talked about the website overhaul that we're working on, and we talked about getting the pictures for commission members that didn't have it, and the biographies, particularly for those that didn't have it. And we're working on that still. And we also talked about the Silver Palmetto Award and reissuing that out again for through DDSM, which will start in January of 2023. And
so the logo comes to us, number B comes to us with a motion and a second out of the subcommittee, is that correct?
that's correct. I was just going to go through the rest of it and then I'll
All right,
do that part.
is there anything else? Well,
There's really, I don't think there's anything else. There's nothing else that the commission needs to vote on today other than that. Where there's just some other little things we're working on, but we'll get more into that as we meet again. And we're thankful to be another year of a temporary committee for communications committee and for the work that we've done. We've also done some other things. We're working on doing some other things to put the commission's pictures out and in our main entrance, and that'll be done very soon. And for those that have heard me talk about this kind of thing for quite some time, I apologize for the length of time it takes to do certain things around here, but that's the way it is when you work with the state, I believe. So, but anyway, the only thing the thing we want to come out of committee with is the logo and have the commission vote.
okay. All right, Commissioner, you have that in front of you. All of you have seen it. Do you have any questions about that?
Very little different.
I know.
So very little.
Tree trunk.
Very,
I
very
was
little.
saying, what is
The
this?
tree trunk.
Oh, okay, I
Trunk.
see that now.
Yeah, there is very little difference. I had to study it to see what the difference
Yeah,
was.
I didn't.
Well, that one is trickery, try to find a different thing.
Now you clearly see it though, once you.
You know, we can tell them what it is.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, so motion and a second for the vote is for number 2 to be the official DDSN logo. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Number B is the new official logo for DDSN. And PJ will make sure that that's all put into all of our stuff that we have to get going.
Specific commission, or we.
We are looking at, I'm sorry. It's awful. You can tell I was as prepared as I normally would be, I'm sorry. And so, but yes, we are looking at a logo for the commission, which will be much different than the one or will be at least different than the one for the agency, because the commission is different than the agency as it oversees the agency. So there will be a logo. We're working on that for hopefully next month or the next, we'll have that ready to for the committee to approve at the next the next time we meet, we plan to approve that and, or at least recommend that, excuse me, to the rest of the commission and a few other activities. Yeah, I mean, two other things in that regard. And again, I apologize for not bringing that up. It's very important.
That's all right. What else we got going on? Anything else that committee has?
Now that we'll discuss it this time, we will discuss it at the next meeting and go from there.
All right, sounds good.
And I don't know if, I hope that I'll be talking with y'all as chairman of that committee, but if I'm not, whoever we find out to be the chairman of the committee will be doing it.
Y'all do it. Y'all do it. All right, the finance committee, Robin Blackwood.
Okay, so, just a brief report for today. One item is information only and one requires a commission. So the Finance and Audit Committee met on July the 6th, and the agency brought to us a new non-service contract for ground maintenance service for the Central Administrative Office. The 3 bids were received with the lowest bid in the amount of $255,060. And so the commission reviewed this, the committee reviewed this item, and we approved it. It's only informational only due to the nature of routine maintenance. In this case, it was ground maintenance. So that's the first item for today, which is behind your tab 6 that we looked at and approved in the committee meeting. And then the second item is under tab 7, which is consideration for bid Postal Center roof replacement, which has been.
I don't have anything under tab 7. Does anyone on the staff have a copy of that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So this bid was discussed in the Finance and Audit Committee meeting, and we approved the lowest bid that the agency suggested that we go with for ground maintenance here at the Central Office. And so it comes out of committee, you know, the first and second. So it just needs that is the lawn care service versus the office.
All right, we have a motion and a second out of committee. Are there any questions regarding this bid?
I just wanted to say that in the finance committee that we decided that we would bring this back up again in a year. It's a 5-year contract that we're gonna reevaluate each year. And so I just wanted to reiterate in this meeting that we were gonna be reevaluating that situation.
And there's also a convenience clause in the current.
Right.
Terminate at the end of the year if we want to.
That's right.
Contract.
Because it's,
so
well, for several
before
reasons.
renewals.
Right,
And
correct.
we can determine if we want to renew or not.
This is quite an expensive contract. I think it was at about $5,400 a month.
Which is a lot more than usual just because of.
Yeah, it's a lot of reasons for new. But anyway, that we realize it's expensive and we realize we're going to reevaluate the situation. So just to let that be known.
Yeah.
In this meeting, because it was known in the other. Anyway, on that.
Yeah, so do we need, what are you guys,
So it comes out, yeah,
you're asking for the bid on the coastal roof replacement, correct?
correct, because the other item was just informational.
Okay, so you have the bid in front of you. Are there any questions regarding that bid?
And the bid is for the roof.
Yes.
Which,
Is this part of that 5-year plan as well?
yes, it is.
Was
Yeah.
there any adjustment to
The current
price
plan.
on it in comparison to what we anticipated? Oh, it was more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was more substantial.
Yeah, roofing is outrageous right now.
Yeah, extremely high. All right, all in favor of this bid, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries and the bid placement is approved. All right, moving on policy, Barry.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Barry Malvern, Chairman of the Policy Committee. And we have several policies to approve, and so bear with me for just a moment. 130 DD is the first one. It's eligibility determination, which sets forth the policy regarding eligibility for services and supports through DDSN. This directive was primarily put into a regulation that was effective on May 11th of 22, and the directive was reviewed by committee and posted to the website for 10 days, and there was no comment. And so we would ask that this policy be approved as written. It's in your packet. As a motion, a second by the committee.
Motion and second is on committee on policy number 130 DD, eligibility determination. Are there any questions regarding this policy? Hearing none, all in favor of this policy, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. 130 DD, eligibility determination policy is approved.
Thank you. Next item is 53511 DD, which is a appeal and reconsideration of decisions. It basically gives people an opportunity to reconsider based upon South Carolina Code of 44-26-80. If they are not approved for services through the boards and contracted providers. And this aspects of this directive were converted into a regulation again on from May 11th that we did a regulation for, and the directive was reviewed by policy committee, and no comments were received again after the 10-day period, and so we're recommending this one for approval as well by the commission.
Okay. The recommendation is for the approval of policy 53511 DD, appeal and reconsideration of decision. There's a motion and a second out of the committee. Are there any questions regarding this policy? Hearing none, all in favor of the approval, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, 53511 DD, appeal and reconsideration of decision, policy is approved.
Next item on the agenda is 53509 DD, which is research involving DDSN resources for persons receiving services from staff employed by DDSN. And this one is recommended for the same reason that I talked about before about the directive on May 11th to be made obsolete, because it is now incorporated into that regulation. And so we would but we do need a motion to make it obsolete.
So this isn't coming as a motion in a second, correct?
Well, it is coming motion in a second to make it obsolete,
So,
but only to make it obsolete.
all right, motion in a second is to make mark 53509 DD obsolete. As a motion in a second, are there any questions regarding this? Hearing none, all in favor of marking this obsolete, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, 53509 DD is marked as obsolete.
The next item is 56704 DD, which is approval of crisis prevention criteria list and approval of basically approval of criteria of how that process goes with prevention and this is through all the operating programs that we have through the DDSN regional centers and the autism division and the DDSN boards. So it's really a comprehensive document, and it was reviewed by the policy committee, and it was posted for 10 days for comment, and no comment was received, and so we move forward to ask for that one to be approved by the commission.
All right, we have a motion and a second coming out of committee for 56704 DD. DDSN approved crisis prevention curriculum list and curriculum approved process. Are there any questions regarding this policy? Hearing none, all in favor of this policy, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, that policy is approved.
The next item is 60005 DD, which is behavioral support for relating to psychiatric medications. And this is for the residential rehabilitation centers and other licensed employment and day programs. We did have one comment on this policy that was addressed, and we are presenting this one for approval to the commission. The policy committee also reviewed this as well.
So 60605BB, behavior support, psychotropic medications and prohibited practices policy has been given to us for approval. Has a motion and a second out of committee. Are there any questions regarding this? Lori, is Lori in here?
I'm right here.
Lori, I do have one quick question.
Okay.
Did we address the, in here is, I have not, honestly, I had time to look at this one. Tell me and look for this particular detail. Is there something in there about the giving of PRN medications, maximum number of times we can do that?
Yes,
Okay, good. I want to make sure that was in there.
it's in there as a prohibited.
Good, perfect. Just want to make sure that was in there. All right, then, all in favor of this motion, please, or this policy, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next.
The next item is 27504DD, which is procedures for implementation of DDS in provider. It's an audit policy, it's provider audit policy, and it's basically the audit guidelines and requirements. I'm sorry, I can't speak for them, but the directive was reviewed, and it's reviewed yearly, and it's also not only that, but it's also a directly an interior policy that does not need public comment. So it didn't come out of public comment. The policy committee did make one change regarding invoices on page 86. Actually, on the policy and the next one, the same change is made just to encourage us to, if somebody doesn't pay their invoice for some reason, it gives us a way to which collect those monies if somebody is fined for not turning their audit information in on time and things of that nature. So that's what the two changes we made on that one, and that's 27504DD and it's 27506DD, which we can do together because they are extremely similar, except one handles one part of our commission and the other handles policy for service providers. So one service providers and one's for DDS and board. So
Commissioners, would you prefer to vote on these separately or together? All right, motion to go together. Is that okay with everyone?
yes.
Okay. So 27504DD and 27506DD will be voted on in one lot. They are both procedures for implementation of DDSN provider audit policies, the procedure for implementation of DDSN audit policy for contracted service providers. Are there any questions regarding these? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. That motion is carried. Those are both approved procedures.
Okay, the last one that I have that I'm going to talk about, y'all getting tired of hearing my voice, I'm sure, is 800-07DD, which is a policy that we look over each year that has to do with the commission. It's a commission policy because it's an 800 policy.
I'm sorry, Barry, what's that?
We don't have that one. That's one you just talked about.
We don't have it. I'm sorry. We're just talking about it. And the reason we're talking about it is because the policy committee approved theirs. It's the committee framework, which includes the frequency of meetings and things of that nature. It's basically the policy of the committee itself. And so I was just going to say that the policy committee approved theirs at the last meeting, but that we would encourage the chairmen of each committee to look at theirs at their next meeting to see if there's any changes to that. There may not be any. It's just something we like to do for to make sure that all committees are clarified. And it's also very important for the Freedom of Information Act that we do that each year. And so we would ask the chairmen of the committee to look at theirs. And if there's no changes, that's fine. You can change. You can approve it just like it is. But if there is, we'll make the changes.
Yes.
There will, for example, be changes to the Legislative Affairs Committee because we're going to add another committee member. So primarily due to the Freedom of Information Act. So so that's that's the information here, and I'm sorry that's not in your packet, it probably should have been, but,
Yes, please, if you don't have your, what's it called, what's the title of that?
it's the,
Committee procedures, is that
committee
correct?
procedures for DDS.
Yes, if you will, please look over your specific ones and get me your any changes you make or want to to your, specific, procedures for your committee. If you will let me know, I would appreciate that. And I'd like for y'all to try to get those to me in the next week or two, if you don't mind, so that we can look at the next.
It will, we'll hopefully bring all for approval
Yes,
at the next meeting is the plan, because it's supposed to be done each July, because that's when our fiscal year begins for those that are listening out there.
that's correct. All right, any other updates on policy?
Lori is going to do our last update as quickly as she can, because I've taken up too much of your time. So
Great. All right, Ms.
we
Lori.
have one of the committee updates from her. Go ahead.
We have three policies that were reviewed by the policy committee that are out for external review. So they will be brought to the commission next August. That's 305, 709, and 703. We have also a staff assigned policy that is out for public comment, 212 DD. We hope to bring it to policy committee and get it to you in August.
Very good. Thank you, Lori. We appreciate it.
And Lori actually said next August, it'll be this August, which is next month.
August.
Yeah.
It feels like it's next August.
For those that would be listening in and trying to disseminate what she was saying. Go ahead.
Rob and Bertie, we're gonna have you come up and talk with us about what's going on with our hurricane preparedness.
I would like to thank you for doing this work. I would not have coffee in this world to stay awake and do what you do.
This is true.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's very kind of you to say that.
Our new commissioners put on the committee that you'll see. You'll get it.
You can see this.
A lot of reading.
There's a lot of work to do, but it's all right.
It helps you better understand the commission.
It really
When you
does.
serve on this committee,
It really does.
it really does help you understand the agency and.
You put a positive spin on anything. Okay.
I'm trying, guys.
Talk to me next month.
Okay, all right.
Okay, good morning. I'm going to move on to a less happy subject, I guess. It's hurricane season. Hurricane season, as you know, in South Carolina and on the Atlantic coast runs from the month of June through the month of November, with the most active time of the window of time is usually the September and early October timeframe, late August, early September, and through September and into October. But in the past couple of years, while South Carolina has been lucky, and we were very lucky during COVID to not have to do an evacuation, that was something that was fortunate for us. It was not. They were still active hurricane season the last 2 years. They were very active. It's just that it didn't impact us, and we didn't have to evacuate with COVID restrictions in place. So that was very lucky. The COVID restrictions this year have been lifted for all shelters, for all evacuations. So the American Red Cross is back to operating under what we pre-COVID, their pre-COVID guidelines and for sheltering, which helps us tremendously. But I want to start off with an outlook for this season. And if any of you are weather buffs or hurricane buffs, you know that there are 3 universities, along with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association, that really do a lot of work climate for hurricanes, and that is Colorado State University, NC State University, and the University of Arizona, that put out annual reports on hurricane season, on what they expect for hurricane season, and then also update it during hurricane season. And the latest update, they all agree, the latest update. Their range for what is expected for this season is 15 to 20 named storms that are tropical storms. When it reaches the tropical storm level, we name the storm. And so they're looking for 15 to 20 of those. We've already had 3 this year, and that was early on with, some early weather phenomena that don't exist right now. And then 5 to 10 hurricanes and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. So that's a right above average season for hurricanes. What we know, what we're going to get in South Carolina, we don't know. It depends on a lot of weather phenomena that exist. But right now, if you follow the news and you find out that we haven't had a named storm in about a month or so, well, there's a weather phenomenon that we know of called a Madden-Julian oscillation that we're in right now. It's something and don't ask me to go into any depth with this. The only thing I can tell you, I went into this with a state climatologist, and I actually trying to read up on it, and I know very little about this. But what it does, what it is it's a weather phenomenon that depresses tropical activity in the tropics, and where hurricanes come off the coast of Africa, they come up through the equatorial waters, the trade routes, basically the trade wind, and that's how we get hurricanes here in the United States on the East Coast. They come across the tropics, and so there is a weather phenomenon that is depressing activity in those areas, formation of activity, and we like this to continue as long as we possibly can. The state climatologist tells us he expects it to remain at least through the end of July, and hopefully into August. But we can't expect that it's going to last throughout the rest of hurricane season.
The oscillator could reverse.
Yes.
It
moves east. It moves east is what I've been told.
That's true.
But it's not an El Nino or La Nina situation where it stays there for the whole season. So we're not going to get that lucky. But
What did you call it?
It's called Madden-Julian, after the 2 guys that discovered it. But anyway, we're going to take that opportunity to do our annual hurricane meeting with our providers on August 1st. So August 1st is going to be our annual hurricane meeting where we talk about hurricane plans. We talk about the outlook for the season, what we're seeing, and then some things that we're stressing for the season. And this season, we are stressing outreach beyond the provider base to the community. Okay, and so what we're going to ask people to do is incorporate hurricane information through your day programs, through other people that you serve, through your case management, make them available, make hurricane information available to as many folks that we serve as possible in the community, and really open that up. And here at Central Office, PJ Pereira is going to we're going to do a weekly hurricane item on social media, where we talk about things like shelter information, community resources for hurricanes, things like that. You'll see that going out on our social media channels, and we'll make that available to providers. Another way we make things available to providers is through our situation reports. Something we learned during COVID that was very helpful to providers, that we put out information that when we got information from DHEC or EMD or the governor's office or wherever, on what was coming in the system, what was coming in terms of guidelines, and things like that. We were able to put it out in situation reports. We will be doing that for hurricane season this year. Our first one is going out this week. And where we get that information is primarily the emergency functions of EMD. They have about 21 functions that FEMA recognizes. We are involved in ESF 6 and ESF 8, which is the shelter functions and the housing functions.
And your focus mainly on the coast where the higher likelihood is?
Correct. You know, that's our, you know, whether if you get the hurricane guy and you see the zones, those are the, you know,
that's the track.
The zones start with A and B and they go all the way through into the alphabet of evacuation zones. Those are the areas that are of most danger in South Carolina, and that's what we focus on. Also, we have a monthly meeting with the South Carolina Planning Committee for people with functional access needs. That is a very active and very helpful committee that their disabilities agencies that serve people with disabilities get together and are involved in dissemination of information to folks in the community. Able South Carolina.
Just ask a quick question. Sure. All right. So if we had Category 5 coming through, yes. All right, and the tide was just right, and it's a full grid, and all that stuff, you know.
Right. Yes.
Well, I mean, you could have a disaster. You could have like they did in New Jersey was Category 2, but everything everything was like perfect, the perfect storm. Right. So what would you? With the theory, the theme would say move as many people as possible from the track, and would we have something in place that would be buses to pick people up to carry them? I mean, what?
I'm gonna get to that.
Oh,
I'm gonna get to that. Okay. That's.
Could you get me off policy?
Yes, we do.
Could you get me off policy and put me on that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That's actually
just kidding, man.
I'm moving in that direction.
Okay.
But just to say that the planning committee for people with functional access needs, we have FEMA on there, we have EMD on there, and we're able to communicate with them as far as needs and resources that we need for folks with disabilities. And FEMA is able to come up with some things for us, and that's very helpful. And we hopefully out of that we will have a lot of these updates for folks in the community will come from those discussions. As we know, every provider has plans, getting to where you are, and evacuation plans. And depending on where your facilities are, you look at the state evacuation plan, and it's done in zones. And everybody, you know, there's always the first thing in the hurricane guide is to know your zone. But everything is planned out by the state as far as size of the storm, where it's going to hit, and where it's expected to hit, and the impact both from a flooding perspective and a wind perspective are. Then the governor, they make a recommendation to the governor to evacuate the zones, and they will give the governor a list of zones that they recommend to evacuate based on all those factors. That is what we go by. Everybody lives by that, and
we should move them to.
So our disability boards all have evacuation agreements with other providers.
Yeah. So
we move them inland.
Yeah.
So as is with everybody, it's incumbent on us to have folks that understand our population, and we find that it's best that the agencies that are like-minded agencies understand our
What
population better.
What triggers the move? What triggers the move? Is it FEMA? It's the government. Okay.
The governor will make a declaration. They will say evacuate zones A, B, C, and that's what we go by. So when we evacuate, the disabilities boards, the providers they have evacuation plans, and they will move inland to inland facilities. They all have sister providers that are trained, that are experts in taking in and serving as shelter for our providers. And so that is what we do. Okay. Now, as far as the regional center goes, Coastal Center is in zone A. It's in the evacuation zone, but we do not evacuate Coastal Center. We don't evacuate Coastal Center because we have Kevlar. We put Kevlar coverings on all the windows in Coastal, and we have generators for every building in Coastal. That every dorm, every building we can support the entire population in an emergency area.
How far away from the likely surge area is that?
It is not in the first two surge areas, but it's further inland.
Oh, tell me, so just one last question. I'll check about interrupting you. Yeah. Either. I mean, I might have to. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we have to.
It's just, I mean, this is like, when, this is a kind of good information and all that, but if it happens and something goes wrong, we're going to want to know why and how come nobody knew what to do about it. So that's why I'm asking questions. Better to ask them now than regret that I didn't ask it,
Absolutely.
4 months ago or something. Okay. Now, the surge is pretty important because you can have the best laid plans of mice and men, and you get caught up in the surge, and you're underwater.
That's correct.
So it doesn't matter what kind of boards you put up.
That's right.
All right. So
that's right.
Coastal doesn't face anything like that, do they? There's no possibility of that.
They're less susceptible to that.
I don't like that.
If we go on what EMD recommends, on what the governor recommends, and what they tell us, and what Andrew will tell me, what Coastal can survive, what Coastal can sustain, based on what is being forecast. And every storm is different.
Yeah.
Every storm doesn't have, we have storms that will be wind heavy and not storm surge heavy. We have storms that will be storm surge heavy and not.
Ask New Orleans what they should have done prior to that.
There was a lot of problems.
Helpless folks in a helpless situation. If the buck stops here.
Yeah, there were a lot of problems.
It stops here. So that's why I'm asking a lot of questions about something that could be catastrophic. And now I'm hearing, well, there's one facility that's not going to be moved because they're okay with Teflon or something or other. Windows. Yeah. Okay. And I don't understand. I
would assume that plan could be altered if it turned out there was a surge related activity, and I'm assuming that is in y'all's plans too.
That is correct.
That is
correct. There is a plan to evacuate Coastal. We don't want to evacuate Coastal.
No, that'd be a horrible one.
Because we don't want to put there's a point where we don't want to put lives in danger for an evacuation. So there's a point where we would have to, based on what we're hearing from the forecast.
That evacuating Coastal would be a monumental task, to say the least.
You got 48 hours to figure it out.
It would be
on top of it.
Yes,
and that's very little time when everybody's operating in a sense of quasi panic, not knowing what to do. He makes the decision.
We try not to operate in panic. We're going to try to make those decisions
you can pretend like it's not there.
In a good, and give ourselves enough leeway to do that. That's what the governor's plan is built in like that, and so is So is ours. It's built with enough time to make good decisions and to lead a good, safe evacuation.
If we were to have to evacuate them, we could move them to other centers, right?
That's correct.
The Coastal Center has an evacuation plan just like the providers do. And what Coastal Center does is Coastal Center would be supported by other regional centers.
Yeah, they would send all the buses down there, our buses,
It would
and
be,
get them, bring them to
Right.
Midlands or.
That's correct.
Or whatever.
that's correct.
But we need to understand the reason they try not to do that is you literally could, God forbid, kill somebody by transporting them when they're in the situation some of those people are in Coastal Center. And
That's correct. We have people with.
That's the last.
That are, that we have,
That makes sense.
we have people that are medically fragile that we do not want to. And, you know, it's one thing, I was at a hurricane conference earlier, with DHEC, an evacuation conference, and, you know, MUSC is their, the main thing that they always talk about in Charleston is the one entity that will not evacuate is MUSC. Down there, they were like, they have no, you know, they don't entertain evacuations. They will, you know, they will shelter in place through any situation. That's the only entity.
How far away is Coastal from the coast or intercoastal waterways?
It's in Somerville.
Right.
I
I can tell you that, you know, certain parts of Somerville, I mean, you're talking elevations of 90 to 100 feet. Now, when it's there, they're significantly higher than those storms are. So,
Yeah.
And let me say too, with a little bit of historical perspective, and it's not just Rob, although I'd give him a lot of credit. We have a tremendously better hurricane evacuation system than we've ever had in the past. I mean, what they decide to do now, I believe would be the right thing to do. Before, we had a very shoddy system, and since Rob took it over and did some other things to make it better, we are much better than we were, in my opinion. And over my years of being involved with the county board, I know what a situation we were on the coast too. Yeah. So we are better off than we were. We'll never know if we're ever going to be completely foolproof, but we will do the best we can.
And you mentioned New Orleans. Almost everybody's hurricane plan now includes lessons learned from those events, and decisions that were made, and there were cascading decisions that were poorly made in those situations. And we in South Carolina, the biggest thing that's guided the governor's plan is prior experience with evacuation, and you know what we learned, and what we need to practice. One thing that we learned out of both Hurricane Hugo and out of Katrina in New Orleans was that we needed not only an emergency plan and a plan to deal with the event, but a recovery event as well. So they've added, EMD have added an entire section of the agency for recovery and for dealing with FEMA and for dealing with rebuilding everything after the storm and recovery. So those are the kind of things that we learn out of every evacuation. It's a blessing and a curse that we haven't evacuated in 2 years, because that's something that I'm going to cover at the hurricane meeting. Is that while we haven't, it was good that we didn't have to evacuate during COVID and deal with the virus, as the governor said. We also need to understand that it's been a couple of years since we've done this, and we need to run through, continually running through tabletop and continually drilling staff and ideas on like, okay, we evacuate now, what do you do?
I would like for him to come back after they have this meeting, maybe next month, and keep us kind of updated and in the loop on this so that we don't hear bizarre things after a category 4 comes through
You good with that, Rob?
I would be happy to keep you updated.
That sounds great.
Have a question?
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. All right, constant hallway. We're gonna talk about the witness in the
Yeah,
chat.
I'm gonna ask Rob to stand by here, because he's worked with me since I started here in regards to the witness sale property. I am happy to announce that as of yesterday, I executed the final document that is required by DDSN to complete the property transfer. The documents are now in the hands of the Department of Administration. And the next step for them are to record all the deeds, and achievements that were executed. So just a brief overview of this property sale. In 2014, the Budget and Control Board approved the sale of 374 acres of witness center property. We then in August 28th of 2015, received a proposal from the city of Clinton. In October 19, 2017, the commission, DDSN's commission at the time, approved the transaction, meaning the sale of the 374.5 acres. There were some appraisals done and there were some technical reports done. Around 2020, around the same time that I started at agency, we realized that there was a portion of the property that had been slated to be transferred that DJJ was using as a wilderness camp. So we then carved that portion of property out and continued in a lease. I believe the lease over 5-year terms with DJJ, so they could continue to operate that wilderness camp that occupies about 35 acres of property. Which you guys have been to the witness center. It's my understanding that that wilderness camp is across the interstate.
Yes, sir, on the other side.
We subsequently had meetings with several representatives from SPOC, which is the State Fiscal Financial Accountability Board.
Big fiscal accountability
Authority, in regards to discussion about transfer. That property transfer then went before that board on December 17, 2020, and was approved. There were some other internal things that the agency had to complete in regards to the property transfer with the Department of Administration, City of Clinton. There was one more entity that had to sell. I don't want to say.
well, ETB.
I wanted to make sure it was important to note, because when you hear that we're transferring 375 acres of property to the city of Clinton, initially it's like shocking, like, why are y'all transferring that amount of property? Well, we also want to emphasize the benefits that the agency, particularly Witness Center, will receive as a result of that transfer. So City of Clinton in the deal agreed to take over the maintenance of the sewer system. We had a study done that showed that, but because our sewer system was basically crumbling, that would save the agency over the years around 1.8.
That's it. They were going to take over the water, sewer, and storm drains at Witness Center. So they would essentially be. They already provide the electrical at Witness, so they would essentially be providing all and responsible for all of the utilities for it. And it's about, if they had for a total system replacement, it's worth about $8 million in value as far as replacement. But the value on a yearly basis of preventive maintenance is somewhere around $50,000. It would save every year going forward. We're not having to pay preventive maintenance on those systems.
In addition to the savings that Witness Center will seek, Witness Center, but ultimately the agencies, the Witness Center budget based from the agency budget. We also included in the deal that City of Clinton agreed to maintain some of the property and create what they're referring to as a sensory park. And we made sure that we included that the individuals at Witness Center or individuals that are served by the agency would have access to that park. It's also important to note that
DDS said we would never be in a position to use that property again. In its heyday, Whitney Center was referred to as a village. When you get your books, you'll see, I got a book when I went down to the Whitney Center for the tour. You'll see back in the heyday, it was almost like this little city. But because of things like home and community-based role and the final role, there's no likelihood, it's almost 0% chance because the federal government has mandated that we're moving against what is referred to as institutions and getting individuals out in the community. So we had property there that we were never going to use. The city approached us initially about wanting to purchase the property. Then we brokered a deal that we thought was in the best interest of the agency, especially in light of them taking over such a costly expense with our sewer system. So anybody have any questions?
I mean, everything can perform, it's very expensive, or they can't do what you say they can do.
Well, they're already doing it. We just pay them to do it. Yeah. So they're already doing what they're going to take over. So they already service our water system, but instead of us having to pay for that, they are going to absorb the cost of it. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
So I've read the contract. It had in there lots of different areas, such as if Clinton ever sells.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
So if Clinton ever decides to sell the property, then we're entitled to 50% of the proceeds from the sale. Also, it's important to note that while we're entitled to 50% of the proceeds of that sale, we have to split that 50% with the Department of Administration. So let's just say Clinton sold the property for $20,000. We received 10. We have to send 5,000 of that to the Department of Administration. There is also a lot of timber on that land. If they ever decide to cut those trees down and sell them, we're entitled to 50% of the proceeds from the timber sale also.
Less 50%. They go to the Department of Administration.
Yes. Yeah.
They got a good deal going on.
They do.
Yes.
It covers.
Yes, well, it's for every state agency. It's
Yeah.
not just particular.
Okay, to make sure we weren't the only ones.
No, it covers the deferred maintenance on state buildings. It goes into a account that covers deferred maintenance on state buildings.
Any other questions?
I have no other questions, but I do have a motion regarding the matter, if we can go on my team.
Pops, do you have anything else for us?
No, ma'am? Okay. Commissioner Mathers?
I just wanted to say that, and I have a sheet here that I'm going to read so that it's easier for those that are taking notes. According to Freedom of Information Act 30-4-90, I would ask that this document that I'm reading would be placed into the minutes. I would just like to, first, I would like to thank, like I did earlier, those that had a part in helping the commission with our recent visit to the Whitten Center. It was, like I say, it was an eye-opening experience for me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be there. But in regards to the Whitten land transfer, I would like to commend the commission members and the staff for allowing us to evaluate the property conveyance documents, which is what Robin is referring to there. And in regards to my direct motion, I would like to say that on page 47, under Article 4 and 5 of that document, it's about revenue sharing we were just talking about, and it's about revenue sharing over the next 30 years. So it's over a long-term period of time, and none of us that are in this room now will be here 10 years now, let alone 30. And so I would like to say that any of the revenue that we get from, or like my motion to be that any revenue that we receive from cutting of the trees or the surplus land sale that will be coming, I would think in the relatively near future, in the next couple of years or less. Obviously, it's shared between the city of Clinton and the Department of Administration and Department of Disabilities. But I would like to say that any revenue that DDSN receives from this transaction directly would go to the Whitten Center for capital improvements. And when I use the word capital improvements, I mean any additions or changes made to land or equipment of any kind or any building that increases the value of that facility or profit that it produces. And what I mean by profit that it produces is the Witten Center, for example, has a shredding business right now where they actually shred documents for pay, and they're looking into other opportunities for business opportunities like another facility similar to them has, and this money could be used if it's directed for that purpose, for that, or for a building, or for maintenance of a building and things of that nature. This will actually be, in a sense, new money they would receive that they wouldn't be expecting to receive. So I would like for it to be earmarked for not only the Witten Center, but for that purpose. And that if the Witten Center for some reason doesn't exist, then it would go to another regional center that was in most need of a capital improvement, is what I would have here. And if I don't think this motion's in violation of anything, but if it is any policy that is in violation of in any way, we will revisit it at the next meeting of the policy committee and discuss it from there. But that would be my motion. I know it's a long motion, so if I need to clarify any of it, that's my motion to be made today.
I second his motion.
Question.
Motion second, we have a question? Sure.
Legally.
So. Is the commission entertaining approval of the motion, approval based on giving staff some time to research? I'm looking at Nancy. Particularly because I'm trying to confirm whether or not it's okay to earmark funds or just one particular for one regional center. I think she's saying yes.
Yeah, I think it would be fine. Okay. But we would need to review the policies to make sure, because the sale of land might have some stipulations in the policy. Have to do something. But if we consider it capital.
That's what I was thinking. And if there's any policy that needs to be reevaluated, we'll be happy to do it through the policy committee. And go from there. I just think that would be if it's for capital improvement, I think that changes the dynamic and makes it in a certain area, which is what we need to do.
Was the Witten Center donated to the DBSN and state ever? The whole.
I'm not sure. The land was, a great amount of that land was purchased from the community, but some of a great deal of it also was donated. So there's parts that were donated, some parts that were purchased.
I would like to, before you approve the motion, do a little bit more research, because I don't want to download anything that we haven't considered.
I agree.
But we could amend it. It needed to be amended next month.
We want a table?
Why don't we carry over the motion in the second to the next meeting?
We can carry the motion and second over to the next meeting.
Pending legal staff's analysis.
We will carry over that motion and second to the next meeting if I get a approval to do so. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
But that would mean that it would be on the agenda for next month.
Yes.
Okay. So as long as we understand.
I think it's somewhat not wrong, but inappropriate for us to make decisions for somebody in the future. We're not going to be here. Except 10 years down, we'll be here. We won't. Things can change dramatically. I don't like to tie people's hands like that. So I would be against it.
The thing that I think they tied our hands too. If you look at 2014 when they decided to sell it, I mean, we had no choice. At this point, the property could be worth a lot more than what it was appraised at back in 2014. I mean, so we kind of got tied in as well.
There was another.
Was it?
Appraisal done after that.
Okay, good.
Newer appraisal.
That's good. I just, they tied us up too. And so I think a lot of times we have to plan things that, unfortunately, even our policies, for example, sometimes bind the commissions that follow us. And that's hard. I mean, it's a hard thing to do, but I actually take the next month and think about this and really put it to your thoughts and take some time to research it and find out a little bit more. And then we'll talk about it again next meeting. How about that? Okay?
Right, you may not be able necessarily to vote it. Because I recall working on a real estate deal that dealt with the railroad under CSX. And it took me 3 years. Okay, so I don't know whether we'll be able to vote the next meeting or not, because it's more complicated than you may think.
We'll find out from legal staff.
Well, we can find out from legal staff and go from there.
But
I mean,
I just
all
wanna
we're
make-
doing is earmarking funds that already belong all we're doing in this motion is earmarking funds that already belong to a Witten Center. And we're just asking that the money that they would receive from it would belong to them, because it is their land that's being transferred. So it only makes perfect sense to me that they would benefit from this transfer as opposed to just the agency in general. And if that happens 10 years from now, at least those looking at it would understand what the direct will of the commission was at that time, which was the overseeing agency, whether it still is 10 years from now or not. And I personally cannot think of a disadvantage of allowing Witten Center to have benefit from the profits of the land that they already own. If they're being asked to or encouraged to sell it for whatever reason, which of course is for water and sewer. I'm not saying it's a bad deal. I'm not saying it's a bad situation. I just think they should benefit from the profits.
I'm just referencing the fact that we need a good legal opinion before we move on this.
So we'll get it within the next month.
Yeah.
If we give them a deadline.
If we get it next month,
Well, if we give them a deadline, we should get it.
not necessary.
Well, we should, I said. I use the word should.
Not necessary.
Well, not
Let's
necessarily.
aim toward it and we'll rediscuss it next month.
That's right. We can put it off for another month if necessary.
Yes. All right.
We just don't want to put it off for another 2 years.
Let's move on to the financial update with Nancy Rumbaugh. Rumbaugh. I'm sorry, Nancy. Rumbaugh.
Okay, this is under tab 15. Chairman Rawlinson, you asked for a comparison of how we ended last year versus this year.
Okay, that's great.
But as of yesterday, you should have received a more up-to-date of the fiscal year 22. We have a few more weeks of expenditures through July 14th that we were able to pay invoices for a whole year. So that increased our cash expenditure to $642.2 million, and also increased HHS's wash to 195.1. So that brought us to total expenditures for the year of fiscal year 22 of $837.4 million. And so we are under budget, 1.62%.
Okay.
Which amounts to how much money? What is
13.8 million.
Questions regarding this, commissioners?
Sorry, I did that.
If y'all want to take a minute and look at it, that's fine. I'm gonna take a minute, y'all. That's what the update. All right, any questions?
I have a question, I have a comment. I'm just gonna say that I think the 1.62% coming from, someone who does budgets and finance, I think 1.62% is excellent. Thank you.
Very good. Those that we talked about last month.
Yeah.
I can get a motion to.
Yes, we need a motion to approve.
This budget. We
Yeah.
normally do on commission meetings.
Let's do that. Budget from Robin Buckle? Yeah. All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries, and it is, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, director's update. Harley is going to give it today. Dr. Fry is on vacation this week. We hope she is having a great time with her family.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some brief updates on behalf of our agency director, Dr. Fry. I just wanted to note that the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act is on July 26th. And I hope you all take the time to remember this landmark legislation that directly impacts those DDSM serves. The ITAC, or Interdisciplinary Technical Advisory Committee, has been established and will be holding its first meeting very soon. As a reminder to the commission and those listening, this committee is comprised of members with specialties in internal medicine, psychiatry, behaviors, policy, and case management, and will meet. Finally, the Direct Support Professional Career Path Program has been approved for DDSM employees. Salary rates have been updated on the South Carolina Careers website, and current DDSN DSP employees' salaries and classification changes were effective on July 2nd of this year. Those are all of my updates. Are there any questions?
Commissioner, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harley.
Actually, don't.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't realize such a thing.
I didn't-
What might your doctorate in might you say to the whole public?
It's in epidemiology.
Oh.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, we are going to enter into, with the approval of commission, we're going to enter executive session to address some contractual matters. One, legislative services, their contract, the Alliant contract, and the fiscal agent matters. I will ask for a brief intercession, probably 30 minutes, so that the commissioners can eat some lunch. I think we're all getting a little famished here, so we will enter an executive session at about 12:30 after we've had lunch, and then we will come back to open session to close out once we finish. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session? We have a motion in a second. We are entering executive session. Thank you. Commissioners, come back to order, please. All right, commissioners, we are rising out of executive session. The only thing that we're discussing is contractual matters regarding legislative services, their contract, Alliant contract, and the fiscal agent matter. Therefore, no decisions were made, no votes were taken. We are entering back into public session. Our next regular meeting is going to be on August the 28th, 2022. And we will have training the next day. Is that right? August 18th. I'm sorry. August 18th, 2022. And then on the 19th, we will have governance training here in Columbia. So plan to attend both of those. Is there any further business that needs to come?
Did you say the 18th training, the 25th?
The 18th is our meeting, and the 19th is the governance training.
The day after.
The day after.
And we're going to make 2 trips.
Okay.
And for the record, it's the commission governance training.
That's right.
Right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
You have a motion of second?
Second.
Second and motion. Is there any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries, and we are in squeeze in and adjourned.
Thank you very much.